Hey y'all, it's Coach Nisi. Now listen, when I decided that I wanted to be a talk show host, I didn't really want to do that. I realized here recently, really all I want to do is talk to my friends. I started paying attention more to like what podcasters were doing. They just get on there and sometimes I have no idea what they're talking about. But today, I know exactly what I want to talk about, and I'm going to talk about it. What's cool is I have with me today Miss Chrissy Johnson. Now, let me be honest with y'all. Sometimes I really want to make a friend. I wanted to make this friend so badly that I literally used to walk over a very dangerous bridge in my neighborhood in hopes that when I would show up at Chrissy's place of employment, she'd be there. Now I had other things that I was doing, but there was really something special about today's guest. A few weeks ago, I got a phone call and it was Chrissy. And honestly, I felt like my life must be moving in a very, very good direction, that I would fall on the mind of someone that I had deemed extremely not only important in our community, but a leader that I looked up to. And so without further ado, I would like to bring our first guest on, Miss Chrissy Johnson.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, girl. Hey.
Hi, how are you?
I'm so excited you had time to hang out with us today. I want everybody to know that you really are someone I have been admiring from afar in my community, in my city, in my neighborhood. And it's not always easy to find someone that you feel represents the things that you want to do, especially if that vision isn't solid. But Chrissy, when I first met you, I was like, look at that. Look at this. She did that. What? And it was just so amazing. I shared with you recently that someone told me, they said, Chrissy handles the business. And so it is an honor to have you on the show today. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
You are
Thank you
so
for having me.
welcome. Chrissy, that's not the only thing though. You have a wonderful screen presence.
I do.
And
I
so
didn't know
it,
that.
yes, and so like today, I'm in the car. You just every time I see you, you're put together. You are ready, and I was like, oh man, I don't even know if I'm ever gonna get to that point. But
Uh-oh.
just seeing you, it kind of makes me want to be more organized. And so I said, well, we need to get Chrissy on the airwaves in front of more people because we don't see this enough, right? I was
Right.
always of the mindset that social media was not for me, but that's where our babies are.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you talk about meeting people where they are, I appreciate you for jumping in here and being a visible force that we can collaborate with. So welcome,
Yes.
welcome, welcome, Chrissy Johnson.
Yes, I am glad to be here. Definitely. So what's
Well,
going
I
on?
well, is there anything that before we dive into some of the things that we're going to talk about today that you'd like to share with our audience about you?
Well, my name is Crystal Johnson, and I am originally born and raised in Raleigh, North Carolina. So I am a native. And this lovely lady here, I've been knowing her for I don't know how long now, maybe what, 2, 3 years or so, somewhere around in there. But she is just so sweet, outgoing, like just awesome. So I can't wait to do more things with her.
I can't wait for us to get some guests on here. I would love for you to come
Definitely.
on as what I call an eternal host. You can pop in, show up. Shanice, I'm going to host this week. We can talk about what you have going on. And so we're
Hmm.
going to dive right into it.
Okay.
Pick one or two.
One or two.
Yep, one or
Two.
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 Okay, so we start with the journals.
Okay. All right.
So my grandmother knew I was a big brain person as a kid.
Hmm.
And she told me, she said, Shanice, you need to consider journaling.
Okay.
And I have diaries. I call them diaries for
Hmm.
years and years and years as a kid. And when
Okay.
I go back and read those diaries, I really have no idea what I'm talking about. Like the stuff that I'm that I'm writing in those diaries. I was
Yeah.
like, this is the stuff that was bothering me. Interesting.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
don't know if I had a fear of someone reading my personal thoughts because I
Hmm.
would say anything in this diary, but I also appreciate that advice my grandmother gave to me. So when we met and you told me that you had a journal, I
Hmm.
felt like this is
Mommy.
absolutely what I was looking for
Uh-huh.
and not realizing it would come to me in this way to get
Gotcha.
me invested back in myself.
Yeah.
And so kids are getting in. So just share with me a little bit about what inspired you and tell us about your journal.
Well, what inspired me is I like writing anyway, so that's just one of my things I like to do. But I was going through a rough time, and I just really needed a way to express myself. So that's when the journal came up. Like, okay, well, I like writing. Maybe I should create a journal so I can get some of these thoughts and emotions out. And so I started writing and creating the journal, and then um, just like different questions that I could ask myself to really like dig deep down and really touch on a lot of different things. And so as I started writing, it went from one question to 10 to 30 to 40. Now it's like 100 and some odd questions in the journal. And then also in between each page, there's positive affirmations that you can just go back and read on a daily basis. When you're not feeling your best or when you need some motivation, you can just refer back to your journal. Um, it has calendar in there. It has just a number of things, breathing techniques. So it's definitely useful for anyone who's really like maybe struggling from getting things out, don't really want to talk to anyone. You just write in that journal and get all of those things out. And trust me, you're going to feel so much better once you start writing in that. Like, I get so many, like, people just letting me know, like, oh my goodness, like, this journal is amazing. Like, even like teenagers. I have teenagers want my autograph because they love the journal so much. And they say they write in it every day. So I just love to hear positive things like that, and know that the journal is really beneficial to our community. You there, Shanice?
Shanice may have disappeared. That happens
Uh
sometimes every
oh.
once in a while. So I have to pop in and see you until she gets back and all along those lines. That's part of what happens
Okay.
on the network and everything. So
Probably died out.
you were saying that you do journaling and all along those lines. I know a lot of people that are into journaling and love doing journaling on a regular basis. So I was just wondering,
Yes.
were you a journaler as a kid? Because I know I used to write a journal. Don't do that
all
anymore, but I used to
all
do
the
it now.
time.
But did you do it when you were a youngster? And is
Yes.
it something that you are continuing to do in your adult years? And what is it about journaling that appeals to you? Because I know some people like to use it as a way to get their thoughts together, to kind of like do
Hmm.
some self healing and all along
Yes.
those lines. But I'm just wondering what it means to you to do this journaling and why you choose to do it and at what time you started.
Yes. Journal. I love to write. I've always liked to write. I love poetry, like anything along those lines. And I was telling Shanice, like I was going through a really tough time this year, going through a lot of things emotionally, losing a business, just so many different things. And that was just a way for me to really get those feelings out. Because, when you go through traumatic things, you're getting stressed, you're
Mhm.
getting overwhelmed. So it's like you've got to release that somewhere. If, you don't have anyone to talk to, or you just don't want to talk to anyone, then you refer to your journal and you can get all of those thoughts on paper and you'll feel so much better. So as I thought about the journaling, I was like, you know what? Let me create this journal, but not just for myself. Let me introduce this to other people because it's needed. I know a lot of people don't like going to therapy, so this could be their therapy. And like I was telling Shanice, in between each page, there's positive affirmations. So you can always refer back to those positive affirmations if you just, having a rough day or going through a tough time. You can just go back to that journal and read those positive affirmations to put you in a better mood. I put some box breathing techniques in there, goals. It's just a lot of different things in there. It's like over 100 and some odd questions in there that you can just write and really get things out. And then it's some just freestyle pages to where you can just write anything you want. If you just want to get some things out or whatever, it's just some blank pages that you can write on those.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And
You
yeah,
mentioned affirmations and everything. Are
yes.
there any? Because I know some people that are religious, and I consider myself more spiritual than religious, are big fans of affirmations, whether they are getting them from Psalms or Proverbs, or whether they're getting them from their own philosophies. I know there are a lot of people that like Ileana Van
Mhm.
Zandt and others. So I was just wondering, are there any personal affirmations that you use on a regular basis that help you get through the day, whether it is relationship or work woes and all along those lines. But I was wondering if there are affirmations that you use regularly that help you get through the day, and maybe there are even affirmations that you created your own self. Because I do know that sometimes people will create their own affirmations that they have made up their self.
Mhm. Well, I don't per se have any that I just refer to just on a regular basis because I have so many of them. Like I just love them. I even have them just like hanging on my mirror when I get up in the morning. I can just kind of read through a few of them. I always keep a book nearby if I'm going somewhere. I have one in my car right now. So just in case I ever want to, write, pastime or whatever, I always keep it close by me. So I don't have any in particular, but I do have hundreds, hundreds,
Sounds
because I'm making more books with affirmations.
yeah.
So, and I'm also doing some for more spiritual, if they're in church and things like that. I have like just Bible verses, affirmations, but it's actually a coloring book. So you actually color in the affirmations and it tells you where in the book it came from. So if it's like Psalms 23 or whatever, it'll have that on there, and then it'll have some things that you can kind of color. And so I do coloring books and I do journals. So
Cool. I actually had the pleasure of interviewing a lady that has a coloring book here in the Raleigh Durham area as well. And I interviewed her a while back. She actually wrote a coloring book, and I forgot the name of the character, but it was about airplane flights and everything along those lines, because she had a coloring book that was based on her love of flying and her wanting to travel the world. So she did this
Oh,
whole coloring book and children's book that was based on that and everything. And I want to say she was out of either Raleigh or it might have been one of our suburbs like Cary or Morrisville or something like that. But I'll have to go back and see who she was, because I actually found her through one of our local TV stations. It might have been Channel 17 or something like that. And then I reached
okay.
out to her and interviewed her, and she was a fascinating young lady.
Mhm.
I want to say she was a mother of one or a mother of two, which is part of the reason that she had gotten into this notion
Okay.
and everything. Just out of curiosity, I'm gonna reach out and we might play a poem from one of my friends and everything. But just out of curiosity, while I try to track down where
Uh-huh.
Shanice is, but just out of curiosity and all along those lines, I was just wondering. You mentioned that you were in the poetry and love poetry, so I was wondering, have you gotten involved with the poetry community here? Because when I'm not doing this podcasting, I work at Haytime. I'm friends with Dasan and Kelly Ray and a number of the other poets here in the
Mhm.
community. So I was just wondering if you ever got tied into our local Triangle poetry community.
I have not, only because I've been so focused on my journals
Mm,
and my coloring books. Because I seen where there was a need.
yeah.
Because what makes my books really unique is they're mostly catered to the African American community,
Mm,
but anyone can color. Anyone can color them. But in my coloring books, all the characters you can tell that they're African American
mm,
characters. And so, like, my journal is called Getting to Know Who I Am Working on Myself journal. And then I have a coloring book just for fathers and sons,
mm,
and it's called Just Me and My Dad. So the whole coloring book is just a father and son just doing activities together, whether it's fishing, whether it's golfing, whether it's riding a bike. It's just a father and son coloring together. And then how I made my coloring books is I made it to where the father and son can color together. So
mm,
once you open the book, you have the father and son is going to be coloring the same picture, but one picture is going to be facing the son and one is going to be facing the dad. So they can sit across from each other, color together, bond, spend that quality time, talk, and they're doing an activity together. And then there's also positive affirmations for the father and son in the coloring book. So I put the affirmations everywhere because they are so needed. Um,
mm. Yeah.
and then I also have one for mothers and daughters as well, and it's called Mommy and Me, and it's set up the same exact way. So not the
Mm,
traditional coloring book where, oh, it's just one child coloring. No, I want the parents and the kids to be able to have that connection, because sometimes we can be so busy and we don't be able to really sit down with our kids and do things together. So this book, you can take it anywhere and you can do those activities together.
right. Sounds fascinating.
Hmm.
Everything. I had worked
Yeah.
at one point with a group. The gentleman that founded it was out of California. It was during the height of the pandemic because he was doing a audio troupe, like an audio troupe of people that were some that were actors, some that were voice actors, and some that were just into it as a hobby. Myself being one of those, called the Funky Eye Puppets. But I know IPC, who is out of California and has worked with George Lucas and was the creator of that. He oftentimes talked
Hmm.
about how we sometimes get so caught up in
Yes.
adulting and that whole adult lifestyle that we forget
Yes,
the wonders of childhood and how important that is. So it
it
sounds like you
is.
are a mother. I know that Shanice is a
Yes.
mom as well. So I was wondering, is that something? Because even here on the network, Kim
Hmm.
Calhoun and Nick Palveda, who are the founders of the network, and they come from the white culture and everything, talk about the need for fiscal literacy and the need for some of these things to be taught in the school systems, because they
Yes.
part of the reason they founded this network is because they're frustrated that is not talked about in the media and also not talked about in the school system. But I'm just wondering your thoughts around that and whether that's something you try to do, is keep that fun in your life and keep that
Mhm.
childlike wonder in your life, and also make sure that your kids don't lose it when they become adults.
Definitely. I love writing when I was younger. Still like writing now, but I also love coloring, and I
Mhm.
still love coloring. So I also have an adult coloring book as well.
Okay.
So I have an adult coloring book as well. So my first coloring book is gear. It's called All About Business.
Mhm.
Um, and it's catered for women. Unfortunately, I'm working on the men soon.
Right.
But I have a woman's coloring book, and all of the women in the book are successful business women. So every page is a different field. So that way, I think it's maybe like 48 pages. So it's about 48 different occupations in the book. So if the girls want to have a girls' night or something at the house and have the girls over, then they can, bring out the coloring books and the color pencils and color and have a good time. So I just wanted to bring the fun back into things like, coloring is fun. You can express yourself. So I think that's just a great way of doing it, is to come up with those ideas. And then also with the coloring books, with me catering those to African American community, is because we don't see any African American coloring books when we go to pick up coloring books. They're nowhere.
Yep.
So, I thought, like, what would be cool for a little boy or a little girl to see a coloring book with characters that look just like them.
Mhm. Now that makes a lot of sense. And I
So,
know that in the
yeah,
past there have been those parties, and I don't know if you've done any of those parties. I know Shanice has done some. I think they're called sipping wines, but there've also been the ones with the coloring books as well and
yes,
everything. So I was wondering if you have done any of those in the Raleigh area, because I do know there are people that like to have their art exercises, but also maybe have some social time as well.
yeah,
I know that.
definitely. I have
Yep.
not yet, but we're working on it. That's what we're working on now. So I'm excited about that.
Sounds great. Sounds like there's some
Definitely
great things that
excited.
are coming up in the future and everything. I'm going to play this
Yes.
point from my friend Madeline, who is out of the whole area of Virginia and is a spoken word artist. Speaking of spoken word, and she's actually got a show here. Well, she's part of a show here on the network called K Pasa, which is a Latin American show. It's her and Viviana's cousin Nicte. But this is one of her poetic works, so we'll play that, and I'll also try to track down Shanice and see where she's
Okay.
at and all along those lines. So we'll definitely
Okay.
do that. And I'll just let you know that there are some people on the network that are sisters that might be interested in being featured in your next coloring book. Because I know Sharon
Nice.
Campbell is a business coach and a business person, as is Maxine Pearl Phillip, and both of them are in like the space of doing business talks as well as also doing some other things in that area. As a matter of fact, I think I'll
Okay.
play one other spot while we're waiting, because there is
Okay.
also the show that'll be on Thursday, so the day after tomorrow, that features Barbara Smith, who's in Virginia, and Shawnee Smith, no relation, that's out of Delaware. And Shawnee has Kindu Spices, which is a food line that she put together in honor of her father. So I'm sure all four of them might be interested in being featured in your upcoming book. But let's check out
Nice.
Maddie and what she's got to say about sisters and maybe Kendo Spice as well. But let's check this out for a second.
My fails all day, well, since yesterday, so I'm just gonna read today. So click, click, pose. Look closely. Can you see the void beneath the surface? In the eyes, the empty spaces, loneliness, screaming, crying, losing hope, begging for someone to notice, barely hanging on. A smile. It's what happens right before the break. Before the beast tears off my chest, the constant battle with this demon who threatens to drown me whole. I try to loosen from his grip. I swim up to the surface, hoping to get to breathe. Pose. For a second, I try hard to forget how the weight of the world pulls me down. At night, I can't sleep. Nightmares on Elm Street. I stay awake thinking of ways to stay alive, yet I close my eyes. I lay in a postpartum state, so when the Grim Reaper finds me, his job is more than halfway done. I am done, but I survive. For some strange reason, I get to do it again. It's Groundhog's Day, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday. They all feel the same. I feel the same exact pain. I cast a lifeline into the world in desperate mode. Click, click, pose. My brain unsteady, like an elephant walking a tightrope. Scattered puzzle pieces that can't seem to make a coherent thought. I think of Chesley, attorney, spokesperson, Miss USA, who had her shit together and still she killed herself. From the 29th floor, she jumped. Depression knows no gender, socioeconomic status. Hurt is hurt. Some can voice it better. Others get lost in the waves. Most days, I surf. It is on those better days I take selfies instead of asking for help. You never know what's been brewing when someone is in a dark place. So when you see those selfies, don't just click on the picture. Check on your strong friends.
You know how people love to enjoy food and don't understand how to flavor their food or how to replicate a meal? They're interested in supplements but don't know where to begin? Well, what I do is I take the guesswork out of enjoying flavor and wellness with my flavorful spice blends so that they can create delicious meals with healing benefits. Can Do Spice was created to help cooks at any level enjoy healing through food. Every spice blend was designed to give added health benefits of natural herbs. Every blend is complete. There's no need to add any additional spice for a delicious meal. Saving you time and money while adding supplements to your meals can be both tasty and fun. My earliest memories in the kitchen began with my father, Kenny Can Do Bond, so it was fitting that I would name this line after him. I have always looked to natural remedies to supplement the body, and I found myself hiding herbs and minerals in foods for my family. That's when it hit me. Everyone needs Can Do Spice. Everyone should be having this. It's an exclusive brand for cooks at any level who want to create flavorful dishes with healing benefits that can satisfy the body and soul. Add a little spice to your life. Give Can Do Spice a try.
Like I said, food is always important. I was actually at a event recently, and the author Deisha Phil, y'all was talking about the importance of food and sometimes games and other things, even in the African American community. Because she was talking about how she brought a certain gentleman, it might have even been her husband, because I think she's a divorcee now, and all along those lines. But apparently, he did not cook the chicken right or did not fix the food right. And sometimes if you don't prepare it right, sometimes for the family will let you know that and all along those lines. So I'm sure you can relate, because sometimes people are like, no, that's not the way we cook chicken. That's not the way we fix macaroni, because you can't have anybody's macaroni and everybody's potato salad, because you got to have it done correctly and all along those lines. So don't know. It was interesting to see that event that was at a book talk this past Friday and everything. One of the things I know that Miss Green talks about, and I talk about it on some of my shows, but I'll definitely love to hear your thoughts, is this whole work-life balance concept and all along those lines. Because as I said, I heard that you are a mother, because you mentioned that, and I know Miss Green is as well, Shanice is, and I know that there might be an involvement as well. And of course, you've got the various businesses, your present business, plus I'm thinking you're working a 9 to 5 as well. So how do you do that whole work-life balance and everything? Because I know that that's a difficult conversation for many a person. So how do you manage to do that work-life balance?
It can definitely be stressful because you're trying to tie in everything in this little window. And they say we have 24 hours in a day, but it never feels like 24 hours because you barely get 6 hours of sleep.
Right.
Exactly. So it's definitely hard to have a job trying to have your own separate businesses, to really market and push those businesses, to get them out there, for the public and for the community to really be able to adapt to them, because how do they know you exist?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
and that's why I was talking to Shanice, and I was like, I really want to push these books. This is the month of February, Black History Month. Everyone should have one of these books. We don't know where these books can go because they are so unique, and once you see them, you'll be like, oh my goodness, I've never seen a coloring book like this.
Right.
So it's like I just really like trying to focus on that, trying to do this, trying to do that. It's hard. So it's a lot of sleepless nights, early mornings, and I mean, you just got to do what you have to do.
Yeah, you have to do what you got to do. Do you
You
have
have
any
to.
copies of the books, or do you know can people? Where can people
I
find the
do.
books and all along those lines? Because I would love for folks to see if you
Yes.
got a copy there with you, what the book looks like, and if
Yes.
also if you know where people can find the book. Because I live in Durham, and I know that way
Okay.
back when, before the pandemic, we used to have the No Bookstore, and I know there's
Mhm.
Blacknificent there in Raleigh, and there are a couple of other places that sometimes will show our books that are African American bookstores. I don't know if you've got any of those, or if you've talked to the food and labor people that are in Raleigh as well.
I actually have a website. I don't know if
Okay.
you guys can see me. I'm outside, but
Yes.
and it's called blackandbrownbooks.com, and that's where you can go and purchase my books. And it looks like my son took them out of my seat. I had all of my books with me, and he took them out when I told him to clean the car.
Of course, he was going to do that. He was going to put the books elsewhere.
Let me see if he put them in the trunk. Oh my goodness. And I was like, clean out the car, but he probably didn't know I had something going on today.
Right.
And he thought he was doing me a favor, which he was. I
Yes.
appreciate it. But now he took my books.
Of
Yep,
course he
and they're
did.
not in here.
That's all right.
Oh my
But they,
goodness. But yes, but you can definitely go to my website again. That's blackandbrownbooks.com. And
Black
it's
and
gonna
brown
have
books.
all yes, blackandbrownbooks.com. And it's gonna have all of my coloring books up there and my journal.
Okay. So I have all of
So
that and everything. Just out of
yes.
curiosity, because another thing that I talk about sometimes on the shows that I've done, including the one with Shanice and everything, is how do you deal? Because it's another topic that I talk about a lot with people that I have the pleasure of talking to with that
Mhm.
inner critic. Because I'm sure that when you told folks, including your family members, that you wanted to do a coloring book, there were people out there that were like, "No, you can't do that. You can't do that." And there were probably even that conversation you had with yourself. Because I know in my own life, I have been my own worst critic. Because whether it is in the romance field or whether it's in the business
Mhm.
field, I sometimes wind up talking myself out of situations that would probably be
Mhm.
beneficial for myself. So how do you deal with both the self critic and those people that don't want to believe in you? And I'm sure you even had family members that are like, "Jay, you just used to color as a kid. This is not going to make any money. This is not going to do anything. And you need to go and
Mhm.
get a real job." Because I've heard friends of mine in the creative field that oftentimes get that conversation. So how do you
Mhm.
deal with the self critic as well as the folks that want to be your worst critics from outside?
Well, when I first thought about doing the book, I was like, of course, it's not a get rich uh, career. Of course, it's going to take some time to really get it out there. But I love working with kids, and like I say, I love writing. So, of course, with me growing up writing, growing up coloring, I was like, how can I, or what can I do, what's missing. So once I get my brain going and the wheels rolling and I start writing down all of my ideas, that just stood out to me because I'm like, hmm, I love writing. Okay, I started the journal. Then I was like, I love coloring. Maybe I should do a coloring book. And that's when I was thinking, like, what would make my coloring book stand out from millions of other coloring books that are on the shelf?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, you know what? We're missing African American books in the African American community.
Mm-hmm.
I said, because now that I think about it, conversation with myself, we don't see those books in the store. So I was like,
Mm-hmm.
would it be cool for little boys and little girls to see characters that look just like them, just like Barbie dolls and things of that nature? It would be cool to have characters that look just like them. So I was like, hmm. So I just got online and started, researching. And then once I figured out how I wanted to do the coloring book, then I got more creative. And that's when I thought about what could make it even more better than just, oh, I'm just going to flip a page color. So I'm like, okay, maybe if I make it to where it's a two part.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I brought in the parents because it's like, you just said, how do you juggle a job? How do you
Right.
juggle, other things and, you know, all in a day? So it's like, okay, well, if I do that with the parent, that time that they're trying to find is when hey, it's coloring time, or quiet time. We're going to do something. But now you can do it together because now you don't have a separate book and your child has a separate book. You're sharing the book. So you're teaching your kids how to share if they're younger, how to share. And this book is not just for young kids. It's for teenagers, adults, whoever want to color in them. So that's how I wanted to make it unique because I haven't seen a book on the shelf, a coloring book, where you can color with two people.
No, that makes a
And
lot of
so,
sense.
yeah, and so that's when I got the idea. Okay, I'll have one picture facing the child, one facing the parent. Now you have time to really communicate with your child because sometimes we really don't have a chance to really sit down and have those conversations that we need. Because your life is busy. You get off work, you're trying to cook dinner, it's time to do homework, time to have bath. Oh, it's time to go to bed. Oh, did I even ask you how was your day? Like,
Yeah.
like, did I
No.
say I love you? Like,
Along those same lines and everything, along those same lines, and just out of curiosity, because I know one of the things that people complain about. I don't have any kids of my own, but I have two nephews, and all along those lines. And I know that my nephews love their Oculus set, and they are about to be this year, 2024. They'll be 15 and 16 when August rolls
uh-huh.
around. So they're 14 and 15 right now, and everything. But a lot of times they are self-absorbed with the things that they love doing, and sometimes they
Mhm.
don't always stay engaged with their family and everything. So I'm just wondering, how do you deal with that, and how do you make sure that even it sounds like your child may be a teenager or a pre-teenager that they
Mhm.
are wanting to stay engaged? Because a lot of times we hear a lot about our kids, in particular our young kids, being caught up in this notion of self-absorption and wanting to be in that social media space, and a lot of people are talking about that bullying that goes on in the
Mhm.
social media space as well. So I'm just wondering, how do you make sure that it sounds like you have a son, and I don't know if you have other kids as
Yes,
well, but
a
how do you
son.
make
Just
sure that they are engaged and that they're staying engaged with the community and not getting caught up in some of this other stuff that is taking our kids away from us?
well, my son is actually 19. He'll be
Okay.
20 next year. Not next year. I'm sorry. Next month.
Right.
He'll be 20 next month. But he loves the coloring books as well, and we actually color in them, even though it's I don't have a mother and son yet, but I'm in the works of making so many different lines of coloring books. Um, so that's going to be next as well.
Good.
But we actually sit and we color together in the coloring books, even though it's mom and dad. I'm sorry, mom and daughter and father and son. We still color in those together. So when he's not working, and he comes over and visit because he doesn't live with me, and I'll hey, let's color in one of these coloring books. So sometimes we'll color in the coloring books. We'll play games. We love to play board games. We always in competition with each other, so we like to make everything fun. So it's like, okay, let's see who colored this picture the best, or let's see, So we just try to find activities that we can do and just make them fun. And once you find something to do and make it fun, you're not worried about the other things.
Right, that makes a lot of
You're
sense,
not
and
worried about the other things.
that gaming can be very popular and very wonderful. Because I know that even in my own family, my mother is still living and is in her
Hmm.
early 80s and all along those lines. But we oftentimes will do things together whenever we gather, whether it's for the past holidays like Thanksgiving and Christmas, and even upcoming
Hmm.
ones like Easter or just going to visit. She will pull out spinners, and anybody that follows the games knows that that's kind of like dominoes. So we'll play
Hmm.
spinners, and we'll in the past we used to do Scrabble, and we still would do that on occasion, or Taboo, and all along
Yes,
those lines. And sometimes you can learn some important lessons, including important lessons about your own family. Because one of the things
definitely.
that I jokingly talk about, and I think it happened during the pandemic, was about a year and a half or 2 years ago. I was
Hmm.
playing with my nephews and my brother and mom and other people that were in there. It wasn't that many; it might have been 5 or 6 of us playing. And usually the older people are the ones that are going to win. My nephew, I think it was the younger nephew, won the game, and we were trying to talk him into playing again. And I think he learned one of those old rules that says if you win and you won that one game, then quit while you're ahead. So he literally
Yes,
quit while he was ahead, because we were like, "Aren't you going to play again?" I can't remember whether it was
yes.
Julius or Langston, and he was like, "No, I'm good. I won. I'll see y'all next time. I'm good."
Exactly.
So he learned
let
that
me
very
let, let
valuable.
me yeah, let me keep my trophy.
Yes, I got this trophy for now for at least this day and everything. So he's
Mhm.
like, no, y'all are not going to put me in because it'll be 1-1. I might lose, and then it might be 1-2. I go on a losing streak that I haven't got the winning streak. So he learned a very valuable lesson. If you win,
Yeah,
stick with winning, and all along those lines. So that was a
yeah,
valuable lesson that he learned. Just really quick, and
yeah,
I did hear
definitely.
from Shanice, and we'll wrap up very shortly and everything.
Okay,
But and she might do another one with you later and
okay.
everything. But there's been a lot of good information, and we shared a lot that Pod TV is out there letting folks know as well. But just out of curiosity, have you ever thought about teaming up with folks that have got other products, or have you and Miss Green talked about that? Because I know that in and I know it's different from coloring books, but
Hmm.
in Virginia, there's a young lady that has a company called Shoe Crazy, which is a wine company, and that is an African American wine. Her and her family. That's literally her and their daughter and two sons, or I might have the order backwards. It might be one, two daughters and one son. I can't remember the actual
Okay,
order, but she's got like
okay.
about 3 or 4 kids and everything. But she's had that business and actually retired from, I believe it was IBM or one of the other
Mhm.
executive companies, and is doing quite well with her wine company, Shoe Crazy. And then there is Harlem Brewing, which a lot of people know out of the well now they're out of Rocky Mount, even though she originally started in New York, and I think she still has some New York presence. And then there's a young lady that's a sister that owns a NASCAR um, car that she races, and all along those lines. So she is a race car driver. So there are a number of people
Wow.
out there that have these various businesses that I was wondering if you had thought about tagging up and having a partnership with them. Maybe they can have like a copy of the coloring book on their
Yeah.
NASCAR car, or maybe they can do like some of those wines and sip or wine and coloring parties with your
Yes.
book and their wine. So I just wanted if you had looked at teaming up with some of those franchise opportunities that are out there in our communities.
We haven't, and that's kind of why I have Shanice on my team to put me out there to people that I don't know or unfamiliar with, so that I can show them what I'm doing, and maybe they would want to incorporate that into something. And I'm more than willing to definitely work with some other people and really getting it out there. Definitely.
Cool. What is something as we're wrapping up and everything? What is something that we talked a lot about different things today and everything? But what is something that people would be surprised to know about you? That they would be shocked. Maybe you are a secret rock climber, or maybe you've got a secret desire to travel to all 100 countries, or all along those lines. So, what is something that people might be shocked to know is a hobby or interest of yours? We know that a lot of people, and even in your friend circle, probably know that you're into coloring and into writing. But what is something that might shock people to find out that you're into? Maybe you're into ballroom dancing.
I actually like riding motorcycles,
Oh,
and I have my own. So you probably wouldn't expect that, but that's like one of my favorite things to do is ride motorcycles.
okay. No, that would not be expected. And then sometimes those can be really fun. Like I said, my brother is actually the co-president of the well, I call them the Batmobiles, but if you're
Uh-huh.
familiar with the Polaris slingshots and all along those lines,
Yes.
the local club that is oftentimes in our parades in Durham and all along those
Mhm.
lines, he is the president and co-president with a friend of his of that
Nice.
club, because they've actually done some community oriented things. Because I know that during
Mhm.
Thanksgiving they went to a area here that is known as quote unquote their project area and fed, I think it was about 70 or 75 families out in
Mhm.
that area. And then they teamed up with Shirley Caesar's church and did something similar around the Christmas time and all along those lines. So definitely that is good. And I know here in Durham we have I think because there are two of them. There's the Bull
Mhm.
City Riders, which I think is the horseback club, and then there's the Bull
Okay.
City other group, because there is one that's a motorcycle club. Actually, there are a couple of motorcycle
Mhm.
clubs that are here in the area. So have you ever thought about getting into one of those motorcycle clubs? Because I do know there are several both here in Raleigh and in Durham.
I have not, only because there's a lot of commitment
Right.
to that, but I do ride with different groups. I have a lot of friends that ride as well. And I also, Christmas time, they do stuff the trailer. And I'll ride with them sometimes through the neighborhoods, and we'll pass out toys to all the kids Christmas. So we'll go to different cities, and well, we'll first they'll collect all the toys for like a week before Christmas. and they'll stuff this big 18-wheeler, and then we'll just go to different neighborhoods, and all the motorcycles, they'll hear the bikes and the kids start running out, and then they'll be able to go and pick out a toy. And then if you bring your report card out and you have a really good report card, you'll get a bike. So different things like that, I'll join in, just to kind of help out in the community. Even though I'm not a part of the club, I still feel a part of it. And then I can still give back because I'll donate and then ride with them as well.
It sounds great and everything. What is something that you think that, because we kind of talked about it earlier, but a lot of times people are afraid to get involved in these fundraising efforts, or afraid to get involved in these causes and all along those lines because they're afraid that they are not getting as successful as they need to be, and all along those lines. So I just wanted your thoughts, because I do know from talking to Shanice that a lot of people that she's involved with are very much committed to helping the community. So how important is it for you to help the community that you are in?
It is very important, and that's kind of the reason why I decided to come out something that I thought was missing from the community, and that was these African American books. So I was speaking with Shanice, and I was like, I'm trying to find a way to get into the schools, to get into the daycares, even the hospitals, the nursing homes, because the elderly need something to do while they're sitting there. So I have all of these different books that I'm still currently working on, and the ones that I've already completed. And I just want to find different ways to put them out there and distribute those in the community where I think that they're most needed. And that's, in homes that may not be able to afford it, or it could be, like I say, in schools, especially like during this month, it would be perfect for, daycare centers and things of that nature when they're talking about Black history, because now we have an African American coloring book that now each year that could be a very important focal point in the month of February, or the coloring book. So I've just been trying to get help with her and try to figure out how I can give back and really push these and be able to not just sell these books, but also give some away to different causes and different things like that, just so they know that they're here.
Yeah,
And
no
she's kind
doubt.
of helping me with that.
Yeah, she's doing a great job helping you. I know she's an amazing lady in that regards and everything. There's some people that, and you mentioned it, today is day 6 of Black History Month, and there are some people that are like, it's 2024. Why do we need Black history? And I am one that thinks that we need it all the time, because a lot of people don't know the history that we've had. And if you are not knowledgeable of your history, you might be bound to repeat it. And like I said, I live in Durham, which is one of the many Black Wall Streets that exist in the world and everything. But I just wanted, from your perspective, why do you think it is important for not just us, but other people to know about the history within the African American community?
I think the more they learn, the more they can see where we're coming from in so many different, how should I say it? Just so many things that we see, like on social media, in the news, with a lot of African Americans. So if they understood the struggle and what we went through, then they probably would understand more of where the pain is coming from, or where the lack of is coming from. Things that they may not have learned when they were younger, and now they're learning at an older age, when we really need to be teaching our kids at a younger age. So that way, when they're coming up, they don't have to face what the older ones are, because they have a lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
So I think just once they learn the history, I think they'll have a better understanding of our thought process, how we, do things, say things, and just a lot of things along those lines.
Yes, that makes sense. What is something that you learned from your creativity that you were able to bring into your day job? Because I know that definitely sometimes Shanice talks about the fact that she was in banking, and some of that creativity and some of that talking to people she had to bring into her banking job and all along those lines. So I just wonder, what are some of the skill sets that you get from your creativity that you're able to bring into your day job as well?
Well, my day job actually, I have a boutique.
Okay.
I was doing my background is property management, but I'm trying to get back into it a little bit now. But right now, it's more in retail.
Mhm.
So the coloring books wouldn't per se fit all the way into that, but the adult coloring book does because it's an adult business coloring book.
Right.
So that could kind of tie in with the adult coloring books, but not the children coloring books. So it would be kind of hard to kind of tie the two in a sense.
No, there might be a way to tie it in because one of the things that I was thinking
Yeah,
about is you said that is you mentioned that you were doing a boutique. So I'm thinking that when you say boutique, is it a store like boutique or is it like a beauty shop kind of boutique? But it could be that the
no,
coloring
it's a
books are
yeah, it's a store,
right.
and that's why I say like with the adult coloring books are all different occupations. So
Gotcha.
actually, in the coloring book, there is a boutique scene in the
Okay.
coloring book. There's like hair. Um, there's a judge. Actually there's a NASCAR driver
Okay.
in the coloring book. And veterinarian, like all like whatever you can think of, it's probably in that coloring book.
Sounds like it. Sounds like some amazing things that are in that coloring book and everything. Just
Definitely.
really quickly, if you tell folks how you can be reached again, and I want to play a video as we're going out, but I'd love to hear your thoughts because you kind of mentioned that you have the son that is older now, and this video is
Yes.
actually from some friends of mine out of Oklahoma. They've been on Barbara Show a couple of times that are honoring not just the teachers, but the people
Hmm.
behind the teachers, like the janitors and the guidance counselors and the support staff that help to make a school run and everything. So, like I said, they do this out of Oklahoma. I think this is its fourth year coming up in 2024. It might even be the fifth or sixth year, but they've definitely been doing it for a while. So, I'd love to hear one, how you can be reached, and two, your thoughts around the importance of education and teachers in general before I play this spot and we get on out of here. And I'll reach out to Shanice and we'll figure out when she wants to do another conversation with just you and her. But I've thoroughly
He was
enjoyed
just
this.
calling
Hopefully,
me.
folks have learned a lot as well. So definitely, just if you tell me your thoughts around teaching and your thoughts around the importance of education, and then, like I said, yeah, how you can be reached as well.
um I actually wanted to be a teacher when I was little.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually used to play school all the time. But yeah, definitely school is key. Even with my son, even though he's 19 now, when before he could even go to school, I had him in my parents and family always thought it was punishment, but I had his own little table and I had his little workbooks, and I would have him do homework, writing, counting, adding, and he was reading before he went to school. He was adding before he even went to kindergarten. So I think if you start teaching the kids at a younger age, it's going to be so helpful for them when they start going to school. It is so key. And like right now, they don't even do cursive anymore. I know an adult right now that can't read cursive.
Wow.
Yeah. And so there's why do we not even do cursive anymore? Like
Yeah, we
so
don't do cursive, and there's a show that we do on the network that features David Walker and some other people. And unfortunately, we don't teach a lot around fiscal literacy or economics, which is the other thing that's
yes.
the reason that this network was founded. Because Kim and Nick were very frustrated by the fact that a lot of our school kids don't know how to not only read cursive or read
Write
other
it.
forms of reading and writing, but they also don't know how to handle their own business and their own fiscal responsibilities. Because a lot of people, including some of ours, might get a windfall, whether that's through the lottery or whether that's through being a great athlete or a great artist. And sometimes, as you know, we'll find out that they've lost all their money because they didn't know how to handle their money.
Exactly. So I just say with the education part, if just like with my coloring books, I seen where it was missing. So if you know that the cursive is missing or certain things are missing, add them to your home. Go
Right.
get those books. Teach your kids. Just because they're not learning it in school and the teachers aren't teaching it doesn't mean that you can't teach at home. There's a lot of homeschooling going on as well.
Yeah.
So I just say when there's a lack of something, there's technically not really a lack of. You just have to introduce it.
Yeah, no doubt about that and
So
everything.
yeah.
Just really quickly, I did want to find out before I play that spot and we get on out of here how you can be reached. But just to let you know, one of the other shows that is now airing on Tuesday, she should have been going to her second episode, but she got sick, unfortunately. And I'm hoping she'll do the second one this evening. If not, it'll be next Tuesday. But Saint Sia Academy, which is an African or African American centered school here in Durham, North Carolina, she's starting to do a show where she's actually telling some of those stories that people in both in our community and in other communities don't know, and all along those lines. So I think she was telling a story about some people that are associated with the Gullah culture or some of the other cultures, and it might even have been a gentleman that was part of George Washington's camp, because George Washington did have slaves, so it was one of the slaves that was under his that he owned that was definitely a rebel in his own right. So that's for the first person that she talked about, and I can't think of the gentleman's name on it yesterday, but that show is at 6 o'clock every
Okay.
Tuesday, or at least that's the plan, because she runs Saint Sia Academy. Mama Noni does, so a lot of it will be talking about history that we don't necessarily know on a regular basis, and all along those lines. So that's be 6 o'clock on podtv.tv as well. So before I play this award, and like I said, I've had a fun time talking to you. Wasn't expecting it to go
Definitely.
on this way, but that's what happens, and that's the way we roll in the world of podcasting. So
Keep
tell folks that
going.
you can be reached, and tell folks how you can be how they can get the copy of the book if they're interested in getting the book, and all along those lines. And if you're interested, we do have a Pod TV store that is associated with us and everything. So I can make sure if it's on Amazon that I can put the book on it to the website as well. And maybe people can purchase the book from there also.
Okay. Okay, yes, all of my books are definitely on Amazon, so you can definitely go to Amazon. But if you want to support my website, you can also go to blackandbrownbooks.com, and those books are up there for you. And they usually ship out next day, if not 2 days. So you'll get them very quickly. So
Sounds
please
great.
go support.
Yeah, definitely show that support. Definitely get out there and support Chrissy and all along those lines. And if they're looking for the book on Amazon, what would the title be under, and all along those lines? So how would it be registered in Amazon?
It's going to be under my name. I have an author's page on there. So it's going to be under Crystal Johnson. But some of the titles are, you can do the Just Me and My Dad. That's the father and son coloring book. You can do Mommy and Me. That's the mother and daughter. You can get the journal, which is Getting to Know Who I Am, Working on Myself journal. Or you can do the adult coloring book, All About Business.
Cool. Well, we'll definitely get those. And by the way, there is another coloring book by another author here on the network, because I just remembered that as you were talking. But there is a lady that does a show called The All Around Show. She is a teacher out of the DC area and all along those lines. But she's got a book, and if I remember correctly, the book is called Gator Park. But her name is Dr. Tawana Anthony, and she's originally from Louisiana. So I think that she used some of her background from having grown up in Louisiana in order to create that book. But her show is every Monday, because we actually did it last night at 6 o'clock. So she does her show every Monday at 6 o'clock. But she does have a couple of books out there, including the children's book. So it is part of the Gator series, book number 1, and it is called At the Gator Park. That is the name of her book, and you can find it also online as well. So she's definitely got a whole book series, and that was the first one, but I think she's got 2 and 3 that are out there as well. As a matter of fact, I see that she's got Gators. Well, that's a different book, but she's got At the Gator Park, which is one of her books, and she's got a couple of others as well. So like I said, originally from Louisiana, but now she lives in DC and is a school teacher in the DC area and all along those lines. So definitely you can reach out to her, and I'll make sure that she knows about your book also. And maybe I can do some book signing events together, because I know she's getting ready to release, I think it's our second or third book very shortly. But let's check out this award from the teachers, and I will if you want to stick around, I'll talk to you briefly, and I'll tell you what Shanice said, because I do know she said you want to try to catch up with you later, but we're just going to end the show with this particular announcement. So hold on one second, we'll do that, and then I'll get the end stream.
I won't fold, I won't drop until we on top. Only going non-stop. I won't fold, I won't drop until we on top. Only
everyone for coming to the 2020 TAF Awards. This was a show like no other, people. This is the Grammys for dignitaries, educators, and support staff around the state of Oklahoma and worldwide. We cannot do this without the support of the people. So we thank you, I thank you, for being such a dedicated supporter to this movement for the Teachers Appreciation Foundation. I thank you.
It's non-stop. I won't